brothers and sisters. Welcome to another day of our Advent series. So we've been speaking about the power of God in the whole role of our own sanctification and how we must also exercise power by our will and by complying and cooperating with God's grace in this great art of creating our soul into Christ. And you know, in the modern world, we put so much energy and effort into so many things. It could be our body, you know, whether in the gym or, you know, really fastidiously picking out the right foods to eat, you know, whether it's into certain hobbies or, you know, whether, you know, whatever image of ourselves we want to create and present to the world. We could put so much thought into these things, and we could give at times little thought to how the soul needs to be prepared and crafted with God for eternal life. And you know, outwardly we could, you know, decorate or paint ourselves with whatever, but you know, how invested are we in terms of the virtues and in terms of the delicacies of the spirit and the spiritual life that make us conform to Christ and therefore compatible with God? And so that's the whole idea of really allowing God to be the master craftsman, but also God gives us freedom and power ourselves to work with him in our own journey towards freedom and excellence and fulfillment in him. Today we want to explore the theme about, inasmuch as power is necessary for the sanctification, so is also gentleness. And this is something that is really, really crucial, and we're going to see this. I'm going to actually read from Archbishop Martinez and make some commentary on some of the things he's saying. But basically he says that, you know, God is as powerful with us, but his power is also expressed in an incredible gentleness and delicacy. God is not violent against us with our free will, but he works with our freedom and seduces us, prompts us, but very slowly. And often the work of sanctification is over a whole lifetime, you know, just like an artist who takes his time to really contemplate and to really bring out of the marble the beautiful sculpture. It doesn't go start attacking it with full force. No. But there's something incredibly powerful too about the gentleness and the almost suddenness at times that we find ourselves transformed. In my own life, I had one particular experience of the Lord that was very gentle, very just there, but it was like the most powerful experience I ever had in my life as well. And this was after many years in religious life. But it changed something for me. And I often meditate on that. It was so subtle, so quiet, and yet it had this ability to really make an impact and change. I'm sure if you reflect on your own lives, you'll find these moments with the Lord. So, you know, he says that weak souls do their works with noise and show, but the strong operate with marvelous gentleness and quietness and hiddenness. Life is as strong as it is gentle. Love is as powerful as it is delicate. Hence, the action of God upon nature, in history, and on souls is infinitely mighty and infinitely mild. This is a paradox. Remember, we're speaking about God who is operating with creatures in this world, but he is transcended. He is not a creature. He's not like anything that we can understand. I'm talking about the divinity of God now. I'm not talking about Jesus' humanity. We've been saying Jesus is the God-man, and so his humanity, you know, helps us to see these paradoxes in human terms, or the ways, the invisible ways of God are really made incredibly visible in Jesus. And yet there's still mystery. There's still the way that Jesus works and lives, even now from heaven. The mystery to some of these ways. So he says that, you know, the action of God upon his saints is most gentle. How he respects our liberty, how he condescends to our weakness. He does not run or jump or act violently. We, being weak creatures, rush, but God works slowly because he deals with eternity. So this is what I mean. You know, God is dealing from an eternal perspective. He's coming from a completely different angle, perspective, way of being than in our experience. And this is where sometimes we tend to judge things according to human ways, and we can't help it. That's who we are, right? But because of the wisdom revealed to us by Jesus Christ, because he's revealed to us many of these ways of the Lord, especially with the passion, the cross, and the resurrection, You know how suffering in this life now, when given to Christ, leads to true life. Well, that's counterintuitive, right? We try to avoid suffering at all costs. And we should, get rid of suffering in our life. It's an evil. But there are times where it just knocks at our door, and we have to learn how to accept and embrace it with Jesus. And then Jesus says that it becomes life-giving. But that's counterintuitive, because we innately see suffering as something destructive. But God can now sanctify it and use it for constructive purposes. So he says that we wish to achieve the goal of our desire with a single rush. But God prepares his work gently, nor does our inconstancy weary him, nor do our failures startle him, nor do the complicated vicissitudes of human life overturn his eternal designs. See, God is working with his own plan.